Hello everyone. Through this video we will discuss the use of super keyword in Java. So let's write down one example and we'll learn or we'll experience what is the need of super keyword. Okay. So through inheritance we have studied that one parent class will contain one variable. Let's we'll have a child class which is inheriting the parent class. So we are providing the value to the instance variable of the base class as 10 and the instance variable of the child class as 20. So we are keeping a show method to display the values. Number, same thing will print for the derived class variable. Okay. So we'll define the main method. And as you know that we have to create the object of the child class. Then ob dot show method we are calling to display the values. Okay. So this is already we have discussed, but still let's execute this one. Okay, compile successfully. Now you're getting the first, the base class variable value is 10, derived class variable value is 20. So as per our assignment, we have initialized the base class variable and the derived class variable and we are printing the values. Okay. So till now we are not facing any kind of problem. Why? Because the instance variable of the base class and the instance variable of the derived class both are having different names. Okay. So if we modify the program where the base class and derived class variable names are same, so according to our logic we'll write down like this: base class variable value equal to number and derived class variable value equal to number, by thinking that the first it will print the base class value and later it will print the derived class value. So let's compile once again and execute, but we are getting some different output here. What we are getting? We are getting the value of the derived class while printing the values. Okay. So what will happen actually, now whenever you are creating the object of the child class, okay, now its own variable memory it will allocate. So number will get value 20. Okay. As it is inheriting the properties of the base class, also memory for instance variable of the base will also be allocated. But any number of time I am accessing the variable name number, it is giving preference to the local variable. Okay. So for the child class object, both number of base and derived will be available, but any number of times I am making the call or using it by the name, always the preference will be given to the local variable. So the derived class will print its own value any number of time we are trying to print the values. Okay, so how to overcome this particular drawback? Because currently we are unable to access the instance variable of the base class. Okay, and here the use of super plays a vital role. Clear? So super dot number, if I'll write instantly, JVM will understand that the child class object will have two variables with the same name. And if I'm writing super dot number, that means this number variable belongs to the immediate parent class, or which is the base class. Okay, so let's check the output, compiled, and see, we are getting the value of the base class, we are getting the value of the derived class. Okay, so the first use of super keyword, super is always pointing to the immediate parent class object. Okay, so whenever I am writing super dot number, it will access the variable of the immediate base class. Okay, so now we are getting the solution that if the base class and derived class both are having same variable name, then I have to use super dot variable name to access the parent class variable. Okay, now we'll discuss something. Why super? Once the example we have written, let's relate to that, to all these points. Okay, so super we are using because it is a reference variable. Okay, what is the use of that reference variable? It is referring it to the immediate parent class object. Okay, so while creating the object of subclass, an object of parent class is created implicitly, which is referred by the super reference variable. Okay, so what is the meaning? Because we know that we are creating the object of the subclass, but how it is showing that the object of parent class is created automatically? Are we creating the object of base class? No, but how it is telling that the object of base class is automatically being created? Let's do one thing. We are defining the constructor of base class as well as the default constructor of derived class. Okay, so whenever you are creating the object, we know that constructor will be called, but you are creating the object of which class? 2. So that means the 2 class default constructor needs to be called. Okay, this is as per our observation through the constructor chapter. Okay, so let's see. We are compiling the program. See, we are getting what output? You are getting first default constructor of base class. Okay, then default constructor of derived class, and rest depends on the method call. But here the interesting factor is, whenever I am creating the object of the child class, the child class default constructor should be called, because I am creating the object of child class. But what we are getting as output, first the default constructor of base is being called. So that means whenever we are creating the object of the child class, automatically JVM is creating the object for parent class, or to which class it is inheriting. Okay, so whenever the object of child class is created, automatically the default constructor of the base will be called, then the default constructor of the child will be called. Okay, this is what the sequence JVM maintains. So for that, we have maintained one point here, that while creating the object of subclass, an object of parent class is created implicitly, okay, and which is referred by the super reference variable. Clear? So that automatically created object is pointed by super. Okay. Now there are three different usage of super keyword is present in Java. First one, it is used to refer the immediate parent class instance variable. We have seen through this example, the parent class instance variable is pointed by the super keyword. Okay, so it's not about the same name. Problem has been created because we are providing the same name, so confusion is maintained, confusion is creating, and we are separating the confusion, or you are clearing the problem by using super keyword. Okay, but if I'll use a different name, then also super keyword will work. It doesn't mean it will not work. Okay, you are getting the same value. Clear? So it doesn't depend whether the values names are same or different, but super will point to the immediate parent class instance variable. But normally it will provide solution whenever the variable names are same. Okay. Second point, it is used to call the immediate parent class method. How it is calling the immediate parent class method? Now suppose the parent class is having a method. Okay. So here it is parent class display method. Okay. So display is also available to the child class, but I am not calling the display method of the child class. What I am doing? I'll write super dot display here. Okay. Okay. So super dot display I am calling it. What will happen? Now check. First, I'm creating the object. So base class default constructor, then base default constructor derived class. Okay. Then I have called the show method where I was printing the value of base class variable as well as derived class variable. But before that, I am writing super.display. So that means super is also used to call the immediate parent class method. Okay. For that, I am getting the first output base class method. Then I am getting the output of this one. Clear? Now we can change the position of this super also. Okay. How? Suppose I am writing at the end. Let's check. Compiled. Now I am getting the output, but previously I was getting the output of this statement before show method. Now I am getting after the show method. Clear? So the conclusion from this example we are doing that super keyword is used to point to the instance variable of the immediate parent class as well as the method of the immediate parent class. And the second point, the super can be used in any of the line, any of the position or any of the portion of the code of the derived class. Okay, to call the method of the immediate parent class. Okay. Now the third point, it is used to invoke the immediate parent class constructor. Okay. How? Now let's see the real use of super keyword. Okay. Okay. So the use of super keyword in inheritance. So over here it is integer number one Okay. Here, the second variable I am declaring integer number 2, and we are using number to initialize the number 2 variable. Okay. We are printing the values of both the variables. So as the names are different, we can directly use that. Okay. So what is our objective here? Let's understand that my parent class base 1 is containing one variable number 1. I want to initialize the value by using the parameter constructor of that particular class. Similarly, the child class which is inheriting the base class is having a data member, and I want to initialize the variable by using the constructor, and then I am displaying both the values. Okay. Now as I am using parameter constructor of the child class, so while creating the object of child class, I'll pass the value. Suppose I am passing 10. Okay. Now, as per the default constructor concept, what our analysis will say, now whenever I'll create the object, previously what we have seen, the default constructor of base has been called first, then the default constructor of derived has been called. So now also, by keeping the same idea, what we will think, whenever you are creating the object and passing the value through the parameter constructor, so automatically the parameter constructor of the base class would be called. So that means number 1 will be assigned 10, and after that number 2 will be assigned 10, and we will get the output as 10 10. Okay. So by thinking that we have written this particular example, let's execute this one and see the difference. Then we'll check, or we'll see any problem is there, then we'll modify the program. Okay. So whatever the error is coming, you will also wonder what is written. Constructor base 1 in class base 1 cannot be applied to the given types. Okay. So that means for this child class, okay, for this child class, there are two arguments. Yes or no? So whenever you are creating the object of the child class, what are the variables? Number 1 and number 2, both are available, but you are passing the value 10. Now whenever in parameterized constructor case, you are creating the object and you are passing the value, which object you are calling, the same parameter constructor will be called. Okay. So 10 will come here, but we know that the constructor of base should be called first, but we are not passing any argument here, we are not calling the base class constructor. So what is happening, this number 1 is not getting any kind of value. That's why the error is coming, that you are not passing any value to the base class variable. Okay. So to overcome this error or the drawback, what will happen, now suppose I want to assign the same value to both base class as well as derived class. So I'll use super, and which variable has is called catching the value 10 number. So num I am passing through super. Okay, so let's see. See error over. Now check. Base class variable value is 10, derived class variable value is 10. Where we are getting the error message previously because we have not passed any argument to the base class. So super is used to call the immediate parent class constructor. Clear? Okay. So you have to write super num. Now let's change the position of super like we have done for the method. Super dot display I was written previously, it is working, after also it is working. That is for the case of method. But whenever I am calling the constructor, let's change the position of super. Read the error message. Call to super must be the first statement in constructor. Okay, so if you are calling the base class constructor through super keyword, it must be the first statement inside the child class constructor. Okay, why? Because the object of parent class is created implicitly and the memory is allocated automatically, so the constructor of base needs to be called first. It cannot be created after the child class. So you have to write the super keyword for calling the base class constructor at the first statement inside the child class constructor. Okay. Now the question comes, if I'll assign different values to the base class as well as child class member, what to do? So suppose I'll initialize number one with a single variable, number two with another variable. So in total how many values are required? Two values. So during the creation of object of child class, I'll pass two values. Why? Because to the child class object, both parent class as well as child class data member is available. Okay, so as I am creating the object of child class, so the child class constructor will be called. So I have to catch with two variables. Okay, so 10, here I have to keep one, I have to pass one. Okay, so first I have to pass, otherwise error message will be thrown. Now what will happen currently? 10 will be copied to number 1, 20 will be copied to number 2. Here it is 10, here it is 20. So I am passing 10 to the base class constructor, parameterized constructor. So 10 is initialized to number 1, and then once the body is over, now 20 I am assigning to number 2. So for base class variable the output will be 10, and for derived class it should be 20. Clear? Let's check whether it is working or not. Yes, working. For base class variable, I am getting the output 10. For derived class, 20. Okay. So inside the main function or main method, I can take the input for the variables. Those variables also I can pass while creating the object of the child class. Okay. So the real use of super keyword will come whenever you want to use the concept of parameterized constructor in inheritance. That means if you want to call the parameterized constructor of the base class, then super is must to use. You cannot pass without super keyword the value to the parameter constructor of the base class. Okay. Now, if you write down the same example for multi-level inheritance, okay, where the concept of base class is there and also the intermediate class is also there. Okay. Okay. So base class is having the variable number one, where parameter constructor I am using to initialize the content. Okay. Child one is one intermediate class which is extending the base one class, where number two is one argument, and I will assign the or initialize the content by using parameter constructor. And finally, I'll display inside the last child class. Okay. You are declaring number three. So what you will write? Okay. So simple thing. Number one is available here. Number two is available here. Number three is available here. You will create the child class object of which child class? The child one, two. Okay. The last child class, I'll create the object. Suppose I want to initialize three different numbers to all the variables. Okay. So I have to pass three values. Once I'll pass three values, I have to catch three values by using the parameters constructor of the last child class. Okay. So first I have to pass the value. So any value I can pass. It's not that always first two values I'll pass. Let's change it. Suppose I'm passing number one and number three by using super. Okay. And for number three, I'm keeping number two variable. Okay. As I'm calling the super keyword, so it will immediately call to the parent class constructor where I am passing two values. Okay. Number one, number three. Now super is used to again call the next base class constructor or immediate base class constructor to pass the value, and the rest one I'm keeping for the variable. Okay. Okay. So here it is, number three. Okay. I'm getting the value. Base class variable is 10, intermediate is 30, and child class is 20 because I have passed number one to the first one, number three to the second one, and number two to the third one. Okay. So this is what the real use of super keyword. That if you want to initialize the parameter of parent class through constructor or through the parameter constructor, then super keyword you have to use. Okay. Now this is what the point, that it is invoked to immediate the parent class constructor. Okay. Now these are the examples if you want to recall the concept, that it is used to refer the parent class instance variable. So base class is keeping number equal to 20. Then derived class is having the same variable name, and you have written the point also. This is used if parent class and child class have the same variable name. This is very important. Okay. If both are having different name, we don't have any problem. But if both are will have same name, then you have to use the super keyword to distinguish the variables. Okay. Now similarly, it is again used to call the super class method name. Okay. So base class is having show method. Derived class is also having the same show method. I am calling the show method, then obviously like variable, it will call to the local method, that is the child class method. inside the child class, I am calling the super.show method, which is calling the immediate base class. Okay. And the last one we have seen that if you are creating the object of child class, automatically the base class default constructor will be called, which is the concept like this, that you are calling the default child class default constructor, but inside that super is used automatically to call the parent class constructor. Okay. And also you can use the super keyword for the execution or initialization of data members of parent class by using parameterized constructor. Okay. So the overall use of super keyword, you can say that always the super points to the immediate parent class object. So by object you can access variable, so by super also you can access the immediate parent class data member. Similarly, by object you can call the method, so by using super you can call the parent class method. Okay. By creating object you can call constructor, so by using super you can call the parent class constructor, either default constructor or parameter constructor for the initialization of data member. Okay. So this is the overall use of super keyword. Thank you everyone for watching.